This is Pamela Nelson with the Grounding and Growing Leadership Podcast powered by Align, and this is episode 30. We absolutely love having experts on our podcast who not only know their field, but really understand the importance of relationship building. And Anna Krueger, who is with us today, is that expert. Anna has mentored almost 40,000 people through her sales-based training, which really is also training in relationships. Are you curious? Make sure you listen today.
Welcome to the Grounding and Growing Leadership Podcast, where everyone is a leader and leadership starts with you. I'm Tara.
And I'm Pamela.
Thank you for listening and inviting us along on your leadership journey.
We have a special treat for you today because not very often do we get to speak to someone who truly is an expert in their field. And today we get to do that. We have Anna Krueger joining us. Anna is a seasoned sales leader who's been making waves in the industry since 2006. She has a really impressive track record spanning over 28,000 hours of sales experience. Anna has honed her expertise to become a true authority in the field. And throughout her career, she's had the privilege of training, mentoring over 39,000 salespeople, instilling them with the art of relationship-based sales, which is, of course, one of the reasons we're interested in talking to her today. Beyond her achievements as the sales leader, Anna's expertise has taken her around the globe as an international speaker on sales-related topics. And through her captivating presentation, she shares valuable insights and strategies, inspiring professionals from various backgrounds to elevate their sales game. Her journey as a sales leader, mentor, and globetrotter serves as a testament to her unwavering commitment to the art of sales and making a positive impact on both individuals and communities alike. Welcome, Anna, to the podcast.
Thank you. Man, I feel like I want you to read that to me every morning. You're just making me feel so good. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Anna, we are excited to talk to you about relationship building, active listening, sales. But first, the question we ask all of our guests as we get started is, tell us about your top strengths. Which one's your favorite right now? Which ones really are you leaning on most?
Yeah, so my top strengths are strategic, maximizer, activator, communication, and individualization. And I am leaning on my number one right now, strategic. And that's in large part because I have a class about to launch, and I'm also packing I have a 24-day trip coming up, and I have to fit everything into a carry-on size duffel bag. So my strategic is on overdrive, figuring out how to make this work. So strategic is definitely top of the list right now.
You are on a podcast, Anna, with two other strategic as our number ones. And I know this is going to show up differently for all of us, but I just want to say, how many days with a duffel bag? Did you say 30?
24.
24.
24 days, one duffel bag that is 22 inches. And I am practice packing. And I'm getting there. My strategic has me up at night researching, like, how do you pack compactly? So strategic at the moment.
And where are you going, Anna? Because by the time this airs, you will have gone. But where are you going?
I will have gone, yes, and hopefully made it back safely. I went to South Africa for a little more than 3 weeks. So I'm very excited. We're going to be driving the coastline of South Africa, diving into some safaris. So we'll leave the coastline at various times, but we're really on a grand adventure. Me and one of my best girlfriends, and we're connecting with a friend in South Africa who's going to take us, and I'm really excited.
Are you connecting with the Hurries while you're there?
No, but I'm connecting with the person who's taking us is dating their daughter. So there's a connection there. So I saw the Hurries last time I was there and met Willem, and Willem is the guide who's going to take us on this awesome adventure.
So for those of you, I don't expect people to know who the Hurries are in South Africa, but Simon and Dee have Talent to Titan, and Simon has his own podcast and is a strengths guru that I know that a lot of strengths coaches, including myself and Anna, learn a lot from.
Yeah. And it's just the world of connectedness, right? Like you connect with the strengths coach and you say, hey, I'm coming to your country. I don't know if you'll be where I'm going. But in February, I went to South Africa, and then they connected me to Willem. And now it's just amazing how through that's probably my connectedness is loving this. But the world gets so small when you just start connecting with people and meeting their people.
One of the things that I love about you, Anna and I met at a strengths coach gathering about a little over a year ago. And one of the things I really enjoy about Anna, other than her clear expertise, is that she is a connector and she has made connections literally all over the world. And so I think your perspective is just really interesting because you literally know people from every region of the world.
Yeah. And that kind of blows my mind. Growing up as a kid, I never went anywhere for vacation until I was 33. That was the first time I ever got on a plane and flew somewhere for vacation. So I feel like a lot of this has come in the last 10 years and it is mind boggling to me. I feel like I'm living someone else's life sometimes. I don't understand how I know people in South Africa and all these places. And I'm really thankful for it. I feel very blessed.
Wow. Yay. And I love that as Tara was introing you, that she was talking about how strategically that you lead through the relational lane and through relationships. And so I know that I am very curious because this is my first time meeting you, which I'm so honored to, and can't wait to hear about all the adventures. And Tara, I'm like, when are we going to go to Africa on a safari? Come on, let's do it.
Right, let's do it.
Let's do
I'll
it.
go with you.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so great. But I would love to hear your leadership origin story of where this began, when you know you wanted to be a coach, and what has gotten you to where you are now, Anna.
Yeah, it's actually really hopefully encouraging story to people out there who may feel like their life is a bit off track at the moment, because that's really where it came from for me. My passion, even in high school, was just understanding how people tick. I've always been fascinated by how people are wired. And now I understand it's coming from individualization and some other things. And when I went off to college, I studied education. So when I graduated, I became a high school teacher and loved teaching. I absolutely love standing in front of a group of people, teaching them something and watching the light bulb moment come on. And after 2 years of teaching, I left teaching for a lot of the politics and things like that, which unfortunately a lot of teachers leave teaching over. And I just needed a job. And so I went to a temp agency and said, I need a job. Pretty much any job will do and probably pay more than what I'm making right now. I just desperately need a job to hold me over till I figure out what's next. So they put me as a sales advisor at a university. And I had always said I would never do business or sales. And next thing I know, I am full on in sales. And I was terrible at it at first. I was at risk of being fired from my first job. And I just realized I either need to figure this out, I need to figure sales out, or I need to leave because I'm not doing any good. So underperforming. I was really underperforming. And that set me on a journey to start to learn relationship-based sales. So I started learning language patterns and the psychology of communication, the art of asking good questions, and that it's really just how to talk to people. You can use it in sales. But I would say what I learned that helped me in sales was really just life skill, life communication skill. And then I used it in sales. And then also I changed my mindset to think like a coach or a counselor and quit thinking like a salesperson. And as soon as I quit focusing on sales and I focused on just listening to people, hearing their stories, figuring out how to help them get whatever thing that they wanted in that environment, it was a college degree. Suddenly I had tons of sales and I went from being the lowest performer on the team to the top performer on the team the next 10 months in a row. And through that, I was going to say they came to me. I hounded the regional director. He happened to be in my office. Thankfully, out of all the offices, I was in the regional office. So I just started going after the regional director, not going after, but I would see him and strike up a conversation and say, hey, I think we should have a training department. We don't have a training department. I really think we should have one. And through persistence, a couple months later, he gave me a budget. We knocked down a wall between two offices and he said, create a training lab. We're about to hire 5 people and you're going to be the one to train them. And there you go, get after it. And that really was the start of that. And there's more to how I got into real estate that I think would be cool to share. It might encourage people, but that really was the beginning of business leadership. And it really came from my heart of being a teacher and understanding the ripple effect of I can help people do better in their careers, but the ripple effect of that is they will make more money. And the ripple effect of that is they're now paying for college education or aging parents. And I'm very motivated by the ripple effect. So it's not about increasing sales to me. It's increasing sales to increase quality of life to the people I'm speaking into.
You just said some magic words for me. So many of them, but you said when I started to treat people more like a coach or speak to them, not in the sales language, but like a coach and like a counselor. I've had several people, coaches even, that I meet with, and they don't exactly know how to express what it is that they do. So the big word for me that I always use in coming alongside people is, how can I support you? So that supporting, that learning that you're offering, how have you seen even that word, as you hear the word support, how does that connect with you in the ways that you have been able to connect with others?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. To me, the idea of support is I'm here even when you need to hear things you might not want to hear, or I'm going to ask you questions to help you self-discover something. And to me, the best way I can support people in my life, whether it's professional or personal, is to be the person in their life that's willing to have the hard conversation or to ask the hard question. And it's really about getting people to where they want to be. I feel this way in sales. I feel this way as a coach to people in business. It's, what is your goal? And then how can I help you achieve it? That's the core question.
Yeah.
And then in helping them achieve it, we're going to ask hard questions or hold you highly accountable. But it's all coming from a place of love and wanting you to achieve the thing that you said you wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And I just find not everyone's willing to have those conversations. We want to keep people happy with us, and it holds us back. But I find the conversations I have with people where I hang up and I feel anxious, oh man, I hope I didn't just mess up rapport, because man, that was a hard conversation. Those are usually the ones that they reach back out to me a week later and they say, that was life-changing. I'm so thankful. And it's taught me through experience to be willing to get uncomfortable and have those conversations to support people.
Yeah.
So it's a long answer to your question, but that's the authentic thing that came to mind. Yeah.
You said from the beginning, even in high school, you were fascinated with how people are wired. And so you pulled that thread to figure out how to be successful in sales so that you wouldn't underperform in your job. But in the meantime, you built some incredible skills and abilities around relationship building. Yes, you're pertaining it to sales, but I think in our world, there's an epidemic of loneliness. If you are, I want to say the longevity rate for your life decreases by 70% if you are lonely in a prolonged way. Smoking's only 50%.
Wow.
What have you seen around the work that you do and how it connects to this concept of people being lonely?
Yeah, I really hear that. And it's almost personal if I can share from a personal answer, but it does tie to the professional too. But I literally am in the last 30 pages of the book, Find Your People by Jenny Allen. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book.
It's really
But that
good.
book is all about building your community. And something she said in that book that really stuck out to me, because she's addressing loneliness. She said, have you ever noticed how you can be closer to someone you met 6 months ago than to someone you've known your entire life? And she said, it's because of the willingness to be authentic. So her point was, you can know someone your entire life and be friends for 25, in my case, 41 years. But if they're not having authentic conversations with you or being willing to share parts of their life, they are really going to be more surfacey. And someone that you met 6 months ago that's willing to go into authentic, real conversation about their real life can be way closer to you in a much shorter period of time. And so to tie that back to business, the way I see that in business even is in coaching calls. I talk to people who have a team of 40 people. They have, from the outside looking in, they have people in their life everywhere. And they feel really lonely because people aren't having those authentic conversations with them. And they feel like they're on a little island.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about sales eventually, and we'll probably do 2 parts with you because we do that with a lot of our guests. But I want to talk about these relationship building skills because yes, it will serve you in sales, but it will also serve you in how you manage people, how you work with people. And it will serve you in your personal life because our relationships are suffering in our culture and we cannot be fulfilled as people without connection. We are designed for it. We are built for it. And a lot of the skills you help people build are skills to connect. So tell us, what are some of the things that you help people learn when you're starting with sales training?
I'll share my first thing I teach, and it's something everyone listening to this podcast could do today, as soon as this podcast is over. So I'm really excited to share it. Before I do, though, I'll say one of the most rewarding things to me is when someone that I haven't seen in a year since class, they'll run up and say, my relationship with my kids is so much better because of this content. And that's what gets me excited. So what I'm about to tell you is the thing that people say that about. That thing is what gave me a better relationship with my kids. So the skill that really helps people in business, but also in personal relationships is what I call digging questions. Digging like where I'm digging a hole, and where that terminology came from. Real fancy. But I was listening to my own recorded sales calls, evaluating to see how I can get better. And I realized I'm asking clients, potential clients, a lot of questions, but I'm really jumping all over the place. I'm not going deep with them. It's almost like I was asking 5 questions on 5 different topics, not actually going 5 questions deep on one topic. So the analogy I'll give to people listening is, imagine we're planting a tree in the front yard and we hire a landscaper and he digs one little scoop of dirt in 5 different places. So we have 5 shallow little holes in the front yard. We've just created chaos is what we've done. We're really not doing anything to plant a tree. And what we actually need them to do is stay in one spot and dig 5 scoops deep. And now we're actually going to get somewhere. So for visual learners, hopefully that will help. So the idea of a digging question then is take a word that somebody just said and turn it into an open-ended question. And I will make sure that you're not jumping around topics. So if someone says the word, and I'll use a silly one for an example, but if someone said the word pine cone, it's going to be impossible for me to get off topic if I use the word pine cone in my next question. I am guaranteed to stay on topic by using their exact word in the next question. So I could say, tell me what about pine cones are important to you? And they might say, I love to build bonfires and they're a great fire starter. So the next question could say, they just said the word bonfire. So I could say, tell me why you love having bonfires. What about that's important to you? And then they might tell me they love bringing community together around a backyard bonfire. And can you see how even off the word pine cone, you can actually get into a conversation? And I share that example because I did that in class once. I just gave them the word pine cone and their job was to ask me questions. And we got into a really intense conversation about how I love to host bonfires because I care about community and I love to bring people together. And it was funny because I didn't ever imagine we'd have a serious conversation. And it started with the word pine cone. So for everyone listening, as you talk to people today and you say, hey, how was your day? And they answer you whatever they say, turn a word they just used in your next question. You'll be surprised how in-depth of a conversation you can have. And then when you apply that to your sales conversations, it really helps you discover the need of the person you're talking to. Why might they need the product you have? Can help you uncover objections because we're listening. We're not attacking them with a response. We're actually listening to them and what they need and what they want and really understanding what they have to say.
I love this. And I sat in on some of your training around this, Anna, with mutual clients. And I think it's so powerful when people actually put it into practice. Where do people get in their own way around active listening and these digging questions?
2 things popped into mind when you asked that. The first one is they haven't studied questions. And you don't have to be an expert at it. Yet it does take intentionality. Most of us, once you hear this podcast and you start listening, you're going to notice most of the world asks closed-ended questions, which leads to a yes or no. And it will take intentionality to get good at open-ended questions, which is not a yes or no. It leads to multiple words. And because we're in a culture surrounded by closed-ended questions, you have to actually be really intentional to learn open. So what I did, I just Googled open-ended questions. I picked 5 or 6 that sounded good to me, and I stuck them on the wall in the workspace where I work. You could stick them on your bathroom mirror to read when you're getting dressed in the morning. But I essentially just put questions in front of my face so that I would, almost just by them being in my environment, they're going to assimilate into my brain. And then the second thing that I think gets in people's way is even if they are asking open-ended questions, sometimes we're so focused on how am I going to respond that we're not actually listening.
Hey everyone, this is Tara. You know how some podcasts will pause in the middle to give you an advertisement or a word from their sponsors? Well, we don't have sponsors, but we do have an important opportunity that we want to share with you. Listen, I think that you and I can agree that the old school top-down leadership model just doesn't work anymore. It would be nice if it did because it is easier to just command and have people pay attention. But honestly, people don't work that way because relationships don't work that way and leadership no longer works that way. And so we have developed a program called Grounded Leadership. And we are seeing incredible results with the cohorts that we're currently running. From emerging and new leaders to executives and business owners, leaders at every level are growing and grounding in their leadership through this program. Grounded Leadership is a comprehensive practice that ensures emotional maturity while encouraging individual growth and building thriving teams. Listen, titles are about authority, but they don't really influence change. Our leadership practice is what determines our ability to influence others. This journey is ideal for all leaders who are ready to maximize their potential, take responsibility for their influence. We have a cohort starting in January of 2024. It's going to be a mixed cohort of leaders from across the country from different organizations, and we really think that you would enjoy it. Not only that, we think you would find high value and there would be a really high ROI for you, your leadership, and your team. If this is at all of interest to you, please reach out. In the show notes, we're going to have a PDF that you can click and see all the program details, but also you can email me, Tara@aligntransform.com, schedule a quick 15 to 30 minute consult to get some of your questions answered, and we can determine if this is a program that's a fit for you and if you're a fit for the program. If this is of interest to you, we hope to hear from you. And now back to the podcast.
So what I found helped with that, especially if you're on the phone with someone, I believe in taking notes on what they're saying. So if I'm in a sales conversation with someone, I've been doing this since 2006. I'll have usually a blank piece of printer paper and I'm literally mapping out our conversation as we talk. And I don't think, because I've done this for so long now, that I don't need to do that anymore. I think it's essential to active listening, because if I'm writing down what they're saying, it is going to be virtually impossible for me to get distracted unless the fire alarm goes off. It's going to help me be engaged. So I think, again, the two things is be intentional about learning open-ended questions, put them up in your environment so you're seeing them all the time, and then write down what people say, especially if you're on a phone call, and listen to listen, not listen to respond.
So how is it then that you can help people slow down to connect with story, but it's coming to sales?
I think it does take remembering the purpose of the call. So if I'm on a business call talking to someone where I understand in this role, I'm the salesperson. So let's say back to when I was a college advisor, someone went on our website and submitted a lead online. And now I'm calling them to say, hey, I saw you were on our website checking out college degrees. The first thing we really need to talk about is what has you interested in a college degree. Not everybody needs to do that. And to be honest, it was hard to slow down at first because I find a lot of salespeople, myself included, are very fast-paced, very driven. So it can feel like I'm wasting time to ask all these questions.
Yeah.
But what I learned is have a longer conversation to have a faster result. So when I was staying surfacey with people, I wasn't converting leads. So it might take me all day to set an appointment. When I started slowing the conversation down to ask good questions, I might set one before lunch and one after lunch. That was actually pretty normal. I would usually set 2 a day, which in that industry was really good. And when I say a longer conversation for a faster result, this is me nerding out. Every industry will be a little different, but in that industry, it was a 12-minute conversation. I timed it over and over to see what's average. And I figured out if you are remembering why I'm on this call, so I don't need to be asking questions about their dog and their 3 kids and where they grew up. We're talking about university. If I can stay focused on that and be intentional and then pre-qualify them, ask those questions like budget and things like that. On average, it was only 12 minutes. So it's not like it was an hour-long conversation, but that really came from remembering, I might be curious about their dog, but I can save that for maybe when we're in person. My goal right now in this conversation is to set an appointment so that we can then get together in person. And I think it's being clear on why we're on the call and not letting yourself get off topic. And the other thing is too, part of why we ask questions is for us as the salesperson to understand their goal. Remember, we're a coach. I'm a salesperson, but what I really am is a coach. Yeah. So if I'm talking to you, Pamela, and you decided to go to university and that class is about to start and you're about to say, I don't want to do this anymore. If I know your goal, I can lovingly call you as your coach, not your salesperson, as your coach, and say, hey, Pamela, I remember you said how you wanted to make more money. You wanted to be an example to your kids. Talk to me about what's going on with not wanting to start school tomorrow. And because I worked with adult students, that is being a coach and that's going to keep you engaged. So that's reason number one and to do it. The other thing though is, haven't we all had a conversation with a friend who asked us good questions and we self-discovered? And I'm going to get really passionate about this, but I think a lot of salespeople hear people say, "Oh, I'm not interested right now." And it's okay, bye. What if you said, "I totally hear you though, but at some point you were interested. You were on our website. What had you interested back then?" And through asking good questions, it could re-engage someone's interest by you just asking questions.
Yeah.
I had breakfast with a good friend this morning before this podcast. She just asked me a lot of really good questions. She didn't say much. She just asked a lot of really good questions and helped me come to my own conclusions of what I wanted to do. So even though it is a longer conversation, you're having results a lot faster. And that appealed to me as a results-oriented person.
We work with a lot of small businesses, and sales becomes a 4-letter word for some people, and they get really nervous about the concept of sales or having to sell. And part of the pressure, I think, first of all, people don't want to be inauthentic. So I love your approach, because the thought of being the stereotypical used car salesman, which is what I think, unfortunately, a lot of people think of when they think about sales, as opposed to building a relationship and coaching someone towards success, that's a very different posture. But I love that you broke it down just now. Like, your goal wasn't to sell 4 years of college to that person on that call. Your goal was to get the appointment. And so breaking it down and staying focused on the next step, as opposed to the pressure that must come from feeling like I have got to convince them in the next 5 minutes that they need to spend X number of dollars with me. That's a very different perspective.
Yeah, if you can remember the steps, step 1 is just get the appointment. And every industry may have different steps. So you need to know your own industry, of course. But generally speaking, it's talk to someone over the phone and agree to meet in person, or maybe have a virtual meeting, but more of a face-to-face interaction. So the first goal is just to set the appointment. You don't have to answer every question. You don't have to solve every concern. That's actually much easier to do when you're face-to-face. So really the first goal is simply just get an agreement to meet. And the other thing I'll say is the goal wasn't to enroll them in 4-year university. The goal was, in the example I did with Pamela, the goal was for her to make more money and be an example to her kids. So we weren't really talking about the product she was buying anymore. We're talking about the end result that she said she wanted. So I might talk to 3 people today that are moving forward, and one person I might be selling them on the idea of being an example to their kids, because that's what they want. That's why it matters to them. The next person, I could be talking to them about how their job all of a sudden has a requirement that they must have a 4-year degree. And so they're doing this to keep their job. So that guy, I'm talking to him about keeping his job. The vehicle is the university or the product. But the thing we're actually talking to people about is their own personal goal, which is why these questions are so important. But yeah, you have to know your funnel of steps, and it's always just get to the next step. Worry about everything else later. Just get to the next agreement.
I wonder, Anna, and the number of people, because I know you also practice this. So you've done this, you've used these techniques yourself, you've trained them, and I think you do some role playing too. How many times do they feel surprised because either they're coming to a conclusion they didn't realize, or because they just feel seen? I think a lot of the times doing what you're doing, these digging questions, helps people just feel heard and seen.
Man, that's hard to quantify, but my gut is telling me on average at least once a week. And then I always think for the people expressing it, how many people thought it and didn't say it. But it's not at all abnormal to hear someone say, "Wow, you're the 3rd person I talked to and nobody else asked me these questions." And it's like a bewildered, like, why didn't they? And I can tell you from my own experience, Tara, I was shopping for business insurance, 7, 8 years ago, and I had 3 referrals from my accountant. So any 3 would do. My accountant trusted them. I literally had the mindset of whoever I talked to first, I just need to get this done quickly. Fine. And the first 2 people sent me a questionnaire to fill out. And then they said, "Fill this out and then we will call you." And that was fine. I wasn't upset by that at all. That seemed normal because 2 people did it. The 3rd guy got on the phone with me. He didn't make me fill out a questionnaire first. We just got on the phone. He asked me probably 30 minutes of questions about my business, where my business was headed, what my goals were. He said things like, "Wow, that's really cool. Wow, look what you're building. That's really exciting. Where do you see yourself going in 5, 10 years? And I remember halfway through the call thinking, I don't care if what this dude offers me is 3 times as much. 1, he cares. 2, he now understands me enough that whatever product he offers me is probably the most accurate product for what I need, because he's taken the time to ask me good questions. And suddenly the first two people that just sent me a little questionnaire seemed really subpar. So to the salesperson who calls leads who say things like, I've had 20 calls. Have they had you? Have they had the experience you're going to give them yet? Because as soon as I met a really good person, the previous two seemed, man, they weren't so good. I thought they were fine until I met this guy. And now this guy with his good questions is really blowing me away. And yeah, I just want to encourage people with that. You're creating a different experience for people. And it is surprising.
I could not agree more. One of my past careers, I had taken over marketing at a community bank and we had big vision for where we wanted to go. And the bank had been pretty stagnant for a long time. And so there was just a lot of marketing contracts that they just were expecting renewal. And I can't tell you how many salespeople came to visit me and didn't ask me a single question, just assumed the renewal, assumed that our goals were the same. And when I tried to talk to them about the goals shifting and trying to engage them, they literally looked lost. I felt sorry for them, and they did not get the business. Yeah. And it was a real challenge because we were a community bank that had been around 100 years. But but if you are in sales or you own a business, listening is so important.
We are going to really be excited to have a part 2. Anna, thank you so much already. The incredible experience that we've had with you. I know, listeners, that you are going to want to come back for part 2. One of the takeaways from this, have a longer conversation to have a faster result. Wow, what an amazing quote. And I love how you talked about that last person. You said, I felt like he cared about me and he gave me a completely different experience. So we want to help you grow in your experiences. That's why we're here with this podcast. We can't wait for part 2 of it. So you are not going to want to miss it. If you have ideas for other podcasts that you have for us, we would love to hear from you and even hear your feedback on this podcast with Anna. You can reach out to us at tara@aligntransform.com. Until then, we will see you next time on part 2 of this important podcast.